everyone, I'm thriller author JF Penn, and today on Killer Thriller TV, I'm here with Brett Battles, the best-selling and award-winning author of over 18 thriller novels. So welcome, Brett.
Well, thank you for having me, Joanna. I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. Well, why don't you start by just telling us a bit more about you and your writing background?
Sure. Let's see, I'm male. And I live in Los Angeles. No, my writing background, I've been writing since I was a kid, really. I started, I had the dream of becoming a novelist when I was probably in 5th grade. And it took me a while to actually achieve it, but I finally got there. And my first novel, The Cleaner, came out in 2007. And I've just been pretty much putting out novels ever since then, as many as I write. I just put them out.
And what were you before?
I worked. I was always a writer, but I worked in television for like 20 years in graphics and television. So doing graphics for main titles for TV shows and network IDs and stuff. And that sounds really cool. I wasn't one of the graphic artists or anything, unfortunately. I was the producer, which meant I was the project manager, just making sure everybody got things done and all that. But it was fun, made a lot of great friends, and gave me a great sense of design and just how things are put together and to look good and everything. So that was a great education that way.
Fantastic. Now, your latest book is The Enraged in the Jonathan Quinn series, which sounds brilliant. Tell us a bit more about Quinn and about how his stories progress.
Sure. The Enraged is the chronologically the 7th novel of the series. There's actually 8 novels because I wrote an origin story for Quinn about a year or two ago called Becoming Quinn, which is out there. But the Enraged is number 7 in starting with The Cleaner, which was my first book that came out, and moving through several to get there, obviously. Quinn he works in the world of espionage, but he has very specialized skill. He's, per the title of the first book, he's a cleaner, and what he does is he's the one you go to when you have bodies that you want to get rid of and that nobody's going to know about. So he's always on hand when something's going to go down, just so that he can clean the scene and make sure that nothing goes wrong and nobody knows that anything happened whatsoever. And of course, things happen, and that's the basis for the different novels. He works with a team. He's got a small team, so that's been a lot of the development over the novels. Each of the novels are basically standalone stories, of course, but there's an overarching arch that of the story of the characters of Quinn and Orlando, his partner and girlfriend, his apprentice Nate, and other characters, side characters that come in and out of the stories. And it's like his development of a lot of things happen to him personally, and he goes through a lot of mind changes as the series progresses, and it's been a lot of fun to do that. I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy all of it, actually, but I enjoy the development of the characters and how they interact and how they change over from book to book to book. The Enraged was, out of all my novels, it's the one most closely associated to the novel that came out right before it, in the sense that the events in the Enraged occur minutes after the events in The Collected, which was the book before, end, and they happen in response to what happened in The Collected. Although it still can be read as a standalone because it's a fully contained story in and of itself. But it's he's a little pissed off as we would say over here in the U.S. At what happened in The Collected, and he's looking to find those responsible. Let's say that.
No, it sounds fantastic. And how much of you is in Jonathan Quinn or your other protagonists? How much of your sort of bleeds through?
That's a great question, and I always think of it this way: there's me in all of my protagonists to a certain extent, male, female, whatever. But often what I give them are my faults, and all of their strengths are strengths I wish I had, perhaps. So I don't know how true that is, but I mean, there's a little bit of that. But they are their own characters too. They are not anywhere near 100% me or 50% me, but there's a portion of me in all of them, I would say. Even in some of the villains too, or in antagonists, But it's just whatever. I happen to know myself better than most other people, so it's easy to put myself into other things.
Fair enough. And I'm really interested in your Project Eden thrillers, which are kind of, virus takes over the world, deadly virus unleashed.
It's my apocalyptical series, which is very exciting.
Which sounds very Crichton-esque to me.
Yeah, I would think so. I was very influenced early on by the Andromeda Strain. I remember reading that way back in the 70s. And I've always been interested in the kind of into the world, what happens next type of novels, and also been very interested in stories about viruses and diseases that just go on a rampage, and what happens, and so that's the basis of this. So in essence, I've been studying for this and researching this novel since I was a kid, because it's just been stuff that's really interested me. And I finally wrote the first story. The first story in the series is called Sick, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a series or just a standalone when I wrote it, but I realized it was really the precursor to everything that happens after, and that it was definitely not a standalone, that was part of a series, and things have just taken off since then. The fifth book in the series, Eden Rising, comes out on October 15th, depending on when you're watching this. It may already be out. That it's a continuation over the fight of who basically is going to chart the course of those people who are still alive after this man-made disaster occurs. So it's kind of exciting. They're my most suspenseful books that I've written, because it's all, it's edge of your seat. They're the books that I receive the most emails about. I mean, Quinn is Project Eden and Quinn are my two most favorite. My favorite series from the readers. They like the other ones, but these are the ones that are definitely right at the top. But I receive more emails on the Project Eden one, because people are always asking, when's the next book? Try.
Well, I think
it's so fast.
Yeah, and it is a fear that many people have, about some kind of pandemic, that comes out. But you mentioned there that you have been researching this since you were a kid, kind of tongue in cheek. But how do you do research for a book like that?
Right. Well, it was kind of tongue in cheek, but it's also very true, because I honestly have been reading those type of stories since I was a teenager, and reading articles and even nonfiction books, like The Hot Zone and different things like that way back when those came out, because that was just a subject that intrigued me. So I've been naturally drawn to that stuff. So when I set out to write it, I already had a lot in my head of what was right. I mean, I may have a few little details I needed to figure out, but for the most part, I was ready to go. But the thing for me, for any book, the research is fine, but you can't bury a book in research, because it's about the characters and the story that they live, and that anything can happen in that case. Yes, you want to get your facts right, but you're also the god of your universe, so you're also making the facts too. So if it's believable within the universe that you've created, which I try to make it so, then I just go. So seems to work so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And then amazingly, you have so many books, but you also have Poe, which I like. I have a female protagonist, kind of kick-ass, right. And you do as well with Alexandra Poe, right? And you've got another book coming out in that series. Tell us about that as well.
Sure. The Poe series, co-writing with my friend and fellow author Robert Gregory Brown, and the first book, which is called Poe, came out back in March, I believe, and the next one should be out around early December. No title yet. That should be coming soon. But Poe is a former Army kid who, well, she's in her mid-20s. She's now a bounty hunter. In the first book, she starts off as a bounty hunter in the Baltimore area, and she gets pulled into this kind of like a defense contractor who needs her help getting some information from somebody who happens to be locked in a prison in one of the former Soviet republics. And so Poe gets smuggled into the prison basically, or as a prisoner to try to get this information out. And the reason she does this is because they are offering basically information about her missing father, who is gone missing like about 10 years before, and he's a former military man. He's wanted by the military. They think he's a traitor. She doesn't think he possibly could be a traitor. And it just kind of goes from there. But she is a take care of business kind of woman. She has friends who help her out, but she's the boss, and I love her. I think she's great. She would kick my ass, that's for sure.
Which is fantastic. And I wondered, across all of your novels, what are the themes or obsessions that you keep coming back to?
Right. Well, obviously, the whole virus thing is a theme, because I've used that in larger or smaller degrees in several of my books, because it's just something that fascinates me. But more philosophically, I guess you would. I go with the themes of doing the right thing, and I not consciously, but it's just there because I think that's kind of how I wish I'm living my life. I don't know if I am, but it's personal responsibility, doing the right thing, and so you'll find my main protagonist will occasionally be in a situation where they could easily walk away from something and it would be fine, but they can't let themselves walk away from it because they know that it needs to be, they are the ones who can take care of it. And somebody has to, and so they're going to take responsibility and do it, or help somebody, or do something, So I realized, I didn't, when I first started writing, I wasn't even thinking about that. But looking back, I realized those themes kind of weave through all of my stories, I believe. I think, anyway.
And again, you have so many books and you're obviously so prolific. What is your writing life like?
Writing is my life. So I write full time, and I basically am putting in 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes on weekends, a few hours if I can catch it, or if I really need to, if I'm falling behind on a deadline, I will do that. I am a morning writer, and I basically need to write first thing. So I get up at 10 minutes to 4 in the morning, and every day, and I know it's crazy, my friends think I'm insane, and they may be right. And I get up then, and I'm usually ready to work, whatever I've done, and I've done some emails and all that other stuff, and now I'm ready to work about 5:15, and I just go until I've reached my daily quota, and then I just keep going. But if I do that, I'll just go. But my problem is if I wake up late or I do something else before I start writing, I'll end up not writing. That's where my head is. I have a nice routine down, and I do it, and I write. At the moment, I kind of switch this up every once in a while, but at the moment I'm writing in my kitchen these days, which I know sounds also odd. It just happens to be, I have a very open floor plan, and so when I'm in my kitchen, I can look out into my living room, which has these great windows over these trees, and I can look out, but I don't actually see anybody who might be walking by, which is would be a distraction. So it's, it's a nice compromise. And the refrigerator is like an arm length away. So that's always good.
Wow, that's so interesting. I haven't heard of anyone else writing in their kitchen, so that's a new one. Are you like standing up at a breakfast bar or something?
No, I have this rolling like butcher block cabinet that's it's higher than a desk. So I'm on a higher chair when I'm doing it, and I can roll it into where I want it in the kitchen, and that's what I do. And sometimes. Not when I'm writing, I'm sitting down. But if I'm in an editing mode where I'm like reading it back and forth, I'm either sitting, sometimes I'm standing, and so that I can kind of walk a little bit back and forth as I'm reading it, because I read it out loud. When I edit in editing mode, I read the whole thing out loud. And so there's a little bit of both. It's kind of fun. I like it. What I think I need to do is get a dedicated higher desk like this, because I like it. I like the being up a little bit higher. I'm finding that very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And I've got to ask you, behind you is a beautiful piece of artwork.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
it's really beautiful. Is art your thing? Is that one of yours, or is there a story?
No, I wish it was one of mine. I do not do that. It's from a local artist who goes by the name of Proto. I love interesting art like that. I'm not going to even claim to have any knowledgeability about art or anything. When I see something, I like it. And this happened to be, this was in a restaurant / bar that I used to go to a lot over on Melrose, which is, Melrose Place, that kind of thing. And it was hanging on one of the walls, and they had a whole bunch of paintings, and they were all for sale. And I kept seeing it for like a month, and in my mind at one point I was going, I have to have that. That is just awesome. I just love the idea of it. It's very whimsical, and I like things like that. And so
I think that's great to have beautiful things in your space.
Well, I think it helps with the imagination, and anything that'll just keep me, in the fantasy world I live in, is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing people wonder is, when we write these thrillers with all this action and explosions and jumping out of planes, what is the thriller writer's life like? As in, do you have some kind of dangerous hobby?
I think the most dangerous hobby I have these days is walking down to get my mail and back up, because I live on a hill, and it's 60 steps down to the street where my mailbox is, and then I got to walk back up. Easy to trip and fall. That's about the extent of the thrills in my life.
Yeah, so it's a vicarious thriller writing.
Right.
Yeah. And in terms of who do you read for pleasure, or what are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading Dust by Hugh Howey.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I just love that whole series, and I really should be done with it, but I was wrapping up the other book I was writing, so I wasn't reading so much. And the Wool series is just fantastic. Oh, I couldn't recommend it more. It's probably the best series I've read in years. So I'm reading that, and I've been also catching up on the graphic novel of The Walking Dead, because I like graphic novels a lot, and so I'm now basically caught up to where they are right now, and I'm like chomping at the bit to find out what happens next. And different things like that. I have a few other novels sitting around, and I've got several things in the queue I know I need to get to, and they're all, all backed up on my Kindle that, I eventually I'll get to. I don't remember everybody's name at the moment, though. I didn't study ahead of time.
No, I think the important thing is that, writers read a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I do not read nearly as much as I used to. Before I became a full-time writer, or before I was published even, I used to read a ton more. I could write 2-3 books a month, 4 maybe, even with the full-time job. Now I'm lucky if I get a book done a month, which annoys me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find you and your books online?
Sure. Well, first, there's always my website, which is brettbattles.com. I have an author page in Facebook, which is author Brett Battles. And you can always follow me on Twitter at Brett Battles. So it's very, very easy. I make it very easy.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time, Brett. That was great.
Thank you. I've had a great time. Thanks for having me.